Get Into Geek. Welcome to episode 81. We're talking chain reaction. Where's our bloody John Farnham singing? I didn't bring it in this week, boys. I'm sorry.
Matty's so happy you brought that back.
Well, that's been sitting on your phone for a week. Just like, nah, man, I'm going to have it ready.
Oh, mate, it's the hotkey on his phone.
Look, it's good. Like, I like John Farnham, but it's obviously not his best work, so come on.
No, but
you're the voice. Trying to understand
Yeah, unfortunately,
there's down.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Take the pressure down, Matty.
There's no Stargate episodes called "Take the Pressure Down" or "You're the Voice." So
We've given the listeners a
We've done
week
what
to
we
catch
can.
up on John Farnham, so they know all the songs.
Yeah. I think it's just because my mum was a hardcore John Farnham fan when I was a kid, so I just heard
Everyone's mum
so
was,
much
mate.
John Farnham as a kid. I'm just like, I'm over it.
And it's okay if you've never heard of him. He does farewell tours every 2 years.
I think he's
mum
had-
Final ever shows are on every other year.
and then a comeback tour the year after.
Yeah.
My mum went and saw him at Bribey last year. We got her tickets for Christmas.
All right. And he somehow finds more and more Christmas songs to bring out with Olivia Newton-John every single December.
Oh, mate, there's nothing more Australian than those two singing a Christmas song.
I saw John Farnham and what's his name? Tom, the Welsh guy.
Brady. What?
Tom Brady.
Tom
Get
Jones.
it on.
Tom Jones.
No, Tom Jones in concert.
Just for a second.
Yeah, it was
Tom
weird.
Brady
Was it called the
and
Has-Been
John
Tour?
Farnham actually busy. He's like, Giselle Bundchen and my hundreds of millions of American NFL money. He's like, no. I'm going to go hit it up with Whispering Jack.
Hey, mate, I'll sing the songs.
take
You
the
throw
pressure down.
footballs into the crowd.
See what I did there? Tom Brady.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Stargate, believe it or not. Obviously, well, I mean, we'll find room to pepper in some more John Farnham stuff. I know that's what you want.
Yeah,
That's why
God,
you're
yeah.
here. My name is Mitch. Joining me, the full crew. Matty, Brendan, Rhys, Lincoln. What's
Yo.
doing, boys?
G'day, guys.
Yeah,
All
boys.
right, let's see what this episode's all about. A pretty key little event happened in this episode, and we'll go and get Rhys's reaction to it after we hear what it's all about. When SGC Commander General Hammond steps down, say it ain't so, saying he's too old for the job, SG-1 immediately suspects foul play. And when a hard-nosed new general steps in to replace him and splits up SG-1, they vow to solve the mystery and get their beloved General Hammond back at the helm. I'm too old for this shit. Did you believe that, Rhys?
No, absolutely not.
You thought someone's kidnapped his grandchildren.
Obviously.
I picked it.
Skip ahead 20 minutes, guys.
Before he even retired, I'm like, he looks like a man whose grandchildren are in trouble. But no, I really like this episode. I'm guessing it was the comedy duo that wrote this one again.
Good guess.
An on-world episode with a bit of comedy in it. I really enjoyed it, especially when Maybourne come into it, and then the comedy duo between him and O'Neill, and I loved it. It
You
was
actually
a
start
fun
to like
episode.
Maybourne at this point.
Yeah,
And you sort of feel a bit like O'Neill because you feel at the end of the episode when he calls him from wherever the hell he's in the Caribbean somewhere, and you can see in O'Neill's like, I feel like I kind of like this bloke now, but I know I'm not allowed to. Like I'm going to have to go and do that Ace Ventura like plunging my face sort of because I feel like I kind of like this guy now.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're betraying the show in a way when you're like, oh, he's not so bad. You're like, he's a prick. He's been with the Russians. He's been with aliens. Like he's done all kinds of illegal
He tried to
shit.
kidnap and experiment on Teal'c.
Yeah. It's like, why do I like
we can't
this
let
guy?
that go.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was seasons
That
ago.
all sounds rather kinky, what
Yeah.
you just said. Been with the Russians, been with the aliens, wants to experiment on Teal'c.
Oh,
Way.
well, actually, no. When
I
you
do
put
too.
Yeah. So is Stargate, is one episode big enough for two dicks, Rhys, when you have...
mate.
Oh, you know what? As soon as it left my mouth, I realised...
Even my dick left
that's a
your mouth.
pun.
There you go, buddy.
But when you have...
When have two dicks ever left your mouth?
Speaking
Never
of big
left.
enough for two dicks.
Never left, mate. Never left. More the merrier.
Touching the side.
Can you have Maybourne and Kinsey in the same episode?
Oh,
Is there enough hate to go around?
Yeah, and old
passing
mate,
the torch, I think.
old mate Bauer.
Okay. He was... when
Three
he-
dicks. That's a party.
Yeah.
When he showed up, I'm like, is this a guy that we give a Get Into Gate name? Like General
Yeah.
Bauer?
General Dickhead.
Yeah, general
Well, he
dipshit.
He doesn't come back. See, all the other ones that we've given names to, like, do 2 or 3 episodes each, except for the guy that died, was Major Haircut.
Yeah, and Colonel Backstory.
Oh, no, sorry, Major, yeah, sorry. It was Colonel Backstory's dead. Major Haircut's still kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a
Okay.
dick.
No, I'm fine not to give him a name,
Here's
but...
a weird bit of trivia for
You're cool,
you.
Matty.
General Gamma
Here's-
Radiation.
Well, here's a weird bit of trivia for you. That actor, the reason they brought him back is because Brad Wright really likes him. He actually auditioned and almost got the part of General Hammond. He could have.
Who was
He
that?
could have. The General Bauer.
Oh, right.
That actor could have been Hammond.
Wow.
he
Not
couldn't
anymore.
Definitely,
No, he couldn't.
Definitely not.
I'm so glad they didn't that they chose Don S. Davis instead.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like
If he gave a good speech at the start and wasn't such a patsy, he could have been okay.
This is a really sort of it's a trope I see a lot in a lot of the TV shows I watch. Like even Sea Patrol did a version where it's like the captain the captain got replaced by
Oh, you didn't want us to bring it up.
either because I was going to bring up the next one is the fact that so in Sea Patrol they did it. They replaced the captain, brought in a dickhead, and he turned out to have like a brain aneurysm, and that's why he was a retard. Ronnie Cox.
Stop you there.
Ronnie Cox as Kinsey, he actually had that same role in Star Trek.
He had a brain aneurysm too.
He had to come
Kinsey
in
was in
and Kinsey was in Star Trek. He came in for 2 episodes and had to be the dickhead
Didn't want to miss it.
captain that replaced Picard. So
Yeah,
I found
right.
that nice little sort of, continuing the little sort of connecting of the dots between everything through there.
Kinsey actually, the actor Ronnie Cox, he plays it up so well because I do hate him in Stargate, but I love him in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. Like, because he's a bit of a dickish captain, but come like the second movie, I'm like, I love that guy because he's got such a soft spot for Eddie Murphy, and he's a bit of fun to take the piss out of. But then SG-1, he's such a dick, especially in this where he shows up. He's like, "Why are you guys here? I've got this massive party. I don't know what you're talking about." You're like, obviously you know a little bit, but then when it's like just on his computer. That he's actually like sent the email, kidnap his granddaughters. You're like, you're evil son of a bitch.
Yeah. He's the ultimate germ, isn't he? Like such a crumb of a human. Like, whenever he's wrong.
Well dressed crumb, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my house wearing a bow tie during the day. F off, mate. Wanker.
Yeah. And he's in bed with the N.I.D. and still comes out and he's like, I would make a great president.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Hate shadow organizations and stuff, and he's just like he tries to justify every bad thing he does while still thinking like that he's better than anything else. Like, you may have saved the world a couple of times, but you're still bad. You're still bad because I
For the
see
greater
you.
good and for the greater God.
Yeah, for God. And
Yeah, when he
like,
brings back all his like religious rhetoric, it was
Yeah.
it's
just
I
to make
love
you
to
angry.
hate him so much.
that's what it's for.
Mission complete.
Oh, I still think the gate's a Pandora's box, and I still think it should be buried forever. But as long as it's open, and as long as it's a threat to this planet, then I'm damn well going to make sure it's used the way it should be used, to defend God's creation.
Oh, blow the rhetoric up somebody else's nose.
Nose.
Nothing but a power-hungry hypocrite.
The only currency in this town is power. So if I have to shake hands with the devil in order to do the Lord's work, then so be it.
You self-righteous son of a bitch. Where'd you get off?
Judge not lest ye be
Oh, I just
judged.
throw another one in there.
Throw a
I
Bible
read
quote
the
at us.
mission reports that come out of that mountain. You play with the fate of this planet on a daily basis.
I'm doing the job I was asked to do. I doubt very much your constituents could say the same about you.
Please,
Absolutely.
given the chance, half of all American citizens won't even vote, and the half that do vote are too
Is this just
stupid to know
politics
what they're
2.0
doing.
Which
for you,
explains
Matty?
how you got elected.
It is. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that bit at the end there where it's like when he's like paying out the voters and stuff like. It gives me flashbacks to Batman Returns when they get that audio of the Penguin
Yeah.
and keep playing it back. I played this town like a harp from hell. I'm just like, please, someone have recorded that.
So just his self-explanation at the start. He's like, I don't believe in cheating on my wife, but if women keep wanting to sleep with me, goddamn, I'm going to keep fucking other women.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you just trying to explain it to yourself?
If God didn't want me to fuck these women, he wouldn't have sent them to me.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have given me an erection.
Yeah, wouldn't have given me a dick.
I didn't want you.
If I lie down with an erection and someone jumps on it, that's their fault, not mine.
God's work. Hallelujah.
No, but you're right. That speech at the end when obviously O'Neill's like called up TMZ and went, yeah, he's running for president. You know? They all have their crazy meeting with the guy hanging over the cubicles in the office. What do you got for me today, guys? And they show up and like, are you really going for president? And then just that line, and I liked the way that they kind of edited it the way that I thought they might go, where the episode played on underneath what would have become his narration, that little speech talking about what a great leader he would be and the mistakes that other people make.
Oh, SG-1's better than that, though.
Oh, and then he goes on about, you got to listen to the people and the same people that he just called absolutely stupid for voting for him.
Yeah.
Classic Polly.
But just him, and he's like, oh, you think about what the actions that some leaders have taken this country, it almost brings a tear to your eye. And I'm like, oh, mate, jump forward to 2018. See what's going on. It's a real party at the moment, mate. Jesus.
That new Bauer fella, as soon as he came in and was just being an absolute douchebag, like trying to get everyone into line.
Oh, he tears apart SG-1 immediately.
I was like, straight away, I'm like, all our allies that we've made through the Stargate are going to hate this guy and want nothing to do with us.
When he first walked through, I'm like, oh, okay, he's quite stern. Okay, fair enough. But then when that moment hits, when he's like, he brings O'Neill in and he's like, oh, if you could do your reports in bullet point form, that'd be really cool. I was like, you're a dick.
Yeah. There was some mad O'Neill comedy in this. It's like when he did his shit speech, then he leaves and O'Neill does that very obvious kind of like double take, kind of like, hang on, is that it?
Yeah.
And then it's just so, well, everyone's standing at attention. O'Neill's just, he doesn't give a shit. And he just sort of does it. All right, always leave him wanting more.
Well,
and then while he tells him to do the bullet points, he's like, well, I understand that's important for the protection of Earth or whatever. It's just like so
Maybe
good.
we should talk about fonts and margins.
And then that was his first one-on-one meeting with that guy. And within like 50 seconds, he's like, if something would be here instead of my head up my ass. And I'm like, he's like, Colonel! And I'm like, yeah, man, you probably should have said that. He's your new boss.
And he just looked at him like, what?
You would have had a snake in your head instead of your head up your ass.
That's right. Yeah. And then, like you said, he's ripped apart SG-1 and, like Carter's, you're there here to do science shit. Daniel, you're merely a consultant, which really he probably should have been from the first place anyway. Like, you made a good point saying, I
didn't disagree with that one.
Like, you know what, you're out there to read symbols. You probably shouldn't be on the front line, which is what SG-1 are.
But putting Teal'c in SG-3?
What the hell?
Well, not even SG-1 with haircut. Like, he could do with major haircut. But then when SG-3 came back and they all got fucked up, I was expecting like...
Yeah.
I was that's what I thought. Like, he's in SG-11. No!
Teal'c's the only one that comes back. Where's SG-11? They're dead. Obviously.
When he sends him off SG-11, it replaces SG-11, and we don't know until like 8 episodes in that as soon as they get to the other side of the gate, Teal'c just like blasts their ass with a staff. Comes they go, oh, dead. Look at them. They got cool. All my Jafar brothers just shot the shit out of them. But SG-3, like when they all come back, and I'm like, oh, that's right. Please, I hope my memory's correct. And they all come back and they're all limping. They've all been shot. And Teal'c just busts through like unscathed, going, I can't put up with this inept bullshit. Okay,
I need an archaeologist by my side fighting.
But that would be funny if you did cap him just because so he would win the Deadpool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's going to put a bet on when SG-11 dies next too? It's like, next mission. I'll make sure of it.
He does conveniently use the same weapon as our greatest enemy, so it's like he can take him out himself and no one's going to know.
Yeah.
In the back.
But I thought they come up with very creative ways and different ways to make us really hate that Bauer fella.
Oh,
yeah.
Because when Teal'c comes through and he's like, he's dead. Yeah, but what about the Naquadah? I'm like,
oh man. The look on Teal'c's face was like, I'm going to rip your throat out, man.
Yeah. It's like he didn't have a single redeeming feature and play that against like the opening scene, which was amazing, like with, the gate room under fire taking shots. And Hammond's like, no, I'm going to do whatever I can to hold on as long as possible to give them a chance to get through. It's like Hammond has always been about saving lives first. Forget the mission as long as you come back alive. That's the main thing.
Safety is our number one priority. And because that's the thing, when Carter's like, it could be, that massive Naquadah bomb. And she's like, it could be radiation. We don't know what's going to happen. He goes, I've got intelligence reports. Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and he's like, you could just tell on his face. It was great acting. He's just like, oh, shit, I'm going to be in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Kinsey's going to have me killed.
But the intelligence reports immediately trying to blame someone else.
Well, even before that, when Carter said, who gave you this report? He goes, oh, you don't need to know that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's like the chief scientist in this base.
Literally, unless they've walked through the Stargate and done that,
yeah.
They're not
Yeah,
she's like, bitch, I'm a walking intelligence report. Like, seriously.
I should be the one giving you the intelligence.
Meanwhile, across the universe, it's actually McKay giving that intelligence report.
Probably.
Yeah.
Carter and
based on Carter's missions. He's reading Carter's reports and giving his own intelligence reports.
Spin on it.
Yeah.
But what a weapon! Like the fact that he's just like, let's just go and test. In his own mind, he knows what's going on. So his plan is to let's just go and see if we can blow up a planet.
Yeah.
It's like not even
so sick.
So good. And you think that. They said, all this shit could be coming through the Stargate radiation and we could be attached to them, that it might power the gate from the other end. But I'm just thinking, what if there were aliens off-world, or if there were creatures living on the moon of that planet and they're just looking at the planet one day and all of a sudden it just blows up. And they're like, what the fuck?
Shit.
What did you touch? Did someone just hit something? What the fuck just happened? That planet just blew up and it was a test from the other side of the galaxy.
Surely when they said, there's aerial shots show there's no civilization there, surely they didn't go around the world to check that.
No, they said within a close proximity.
Within 50 miles.
Yeah. So they've got...
within a UAV's distance of Stargate.
Earlier on, a couple of generations ago, the guy kept coming through the gate and they're like, screw this, we're moving to the other side of the Earth where the Stargate is not. That way we'll be safe. Yep. Next minute...
Remember a few weeks ago when we relocated the Encarans and we scouted that area and thought it was fine, and there's a giant ship of fiery death on the other side of the planet.
Why didn't they just send it to a gold stronghold?
Yeah, make that
give it
straight up,
hit the button as soon as it goes through and just kaboom.
Oh, start a war.
And really,
I think the idea being they need time between when it goes off. To then see the blast wave and then shut down the gate. Like if you blew it up right in front of the gate, you'd be in the exact same situation they were in.
Well, I mean, you do something along the lines of just set it for a timer of 5 seconds, send it straight through, turn the Stargate off.
They still could do that. Like it's an evil plan. And it's a really far out there plan, but at the same time, it works.
Yeah.
So the only reason this went so wrong is because they left the gate open long enough to get feedback and tests and to actually watch what happened. If they set it off, miles and miles away like they did in this planet, on a Gould homeworld somewhere or a fortress, and set it off, boom, as soon as they hit the trigger, shut down the gate, and it's like, okay, we're just taking care of another planet. Drastic, desperate measures, but absolutely works.
Yeah, obviously they wanted the data from the bomb.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you put it right next to the Stargate, it probably would have exploded that Stargate.
Yeah, which would have magnified its explosion too.
Yeah. Because that was the only reason they kept the Stargate open, wasn't it? To get the video feedback.
Yeah, and all the data they collected from it,
But then they were surprised that the mount blew up. They saw the explosion coming this way and then, hey, what happened? Well, obviously the Malp's dead.
I think the thing that annoyed me the most is they had the iris open.
Yeah.
Until, close the iris now because we can't shut it down. It's like so much radiation's leaked in. It's like you knew already from a matter of time that, and she already said it too.
Yeah, but you got to remember that was an incoming wormhole. This is an outgoing wormhole. So the one, remember?
Oh yeah, because stuff can't travel backwards.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why.
Yeah, but
they
so
did it.
was Matter of Time.
No, that was an outgoing wormhole in Matter of Time. Because we dialed them.
Oh, that's right. They dialed in first, and then it cut off, and then we dialed back. Yeah, that's right.
That's what she said. Even an outgoing wormhole,
right,
there's time dilation. There's radiation.
But
and
that
gravity.
was that was him being a dick again.
Well, yeah,
no, you do as I say.
That's him not giving.
Yeah, but close the iris is what I'm saying.
I think the idea behind it though is that they didn't expect They sent the bomb malp as far as they could. Then they had a probe malp sitting where they thought outside what they thought the bomb blast was going to be to record results. And then the gate was even further back. But because they didn't listen to Carter, the bomb was 50 times larger than what they expected. So not only did it take out larger than the bomb radius they expected, it took out the reconnaissance malp
because of the NACWA deposits in the ground,
in the soil.
Right.
So it's just because they didn't let Carter do the math. It might have taken over half the planet where they expected to take out a continent or something like that. So it was just, and it was a classic example of them just being underprepared and not letting Carter be like, hey, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Go a little bit further.
I mean, obviously, Catherine Langford is the first one on our planet to ever hold Naquadah, so she obviously knows heaps about it.
Yeah, it's her rock. She doesn't know where she got it from.
She's had that rock since the 30s.
Still got it in her bedside table.
I mean, she wakes up in the night, Naquadah! Oh, shit! Oh.
And we never saw that Naquadah rock again.
Hey, old mate Bauer, when they said, "Oh, don't worry, once the window of 38 minutes passes, we'll maybe be fine." They got to 38 exactly. They're like, "Oh shit!" And then Bauer's like, "Well, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm going to go call the president from the surface." And she's like, "No, there's a phone there. Yeah, no, like I said, just going to call him upstairs. Better reception. No, it's a hard one. That's the red phone. Yeah." definitely going upstairs already.
So, I'm sure it'd be much safer up there as
like
she walks up.
General Mustache.
Yeah.
And I think... Shut up. I think they do...
Maybe that can be this guy's nickname.
I think they do...
Mustache.
2.0.
That's a good nickname. We should use that.
Yeah, I'm full of them.
I think they do bring back that reference as well, because isn't there another episode where they're waiting for the 38-minute window and it goes past it and someone's like, well, what's the next plan? And Sam's like, it's not exact. Just, it's not exactly 38 minutes. So I was like, I like they
walk
do
out the
bring
door,
that
come back
element
in, and it'll shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, switch it off and back on again.
So, Brennan, you've always said that you don't like Earth-based episodes, and usually when they do Earth-based episodes, it's like, once every 4 or 5 weeks when they're trying to, save some budget or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've come to say, well, if you're going to do an Earth-based episode, do something interesting with it. Is like, for me, this absolutely passed. Like, it doesn't feel like an Earth-based episode because there is so much going on. Like, they've really done what they can when they're just shooting in Canadian locations.
For me, a lot like this isn't the worst one of the Earthbound ones, but I feel like they do them a lot, especially later, and it's just like N.I.D. and it just becomes quite repetitive. This is kind of the birth of that.
Yeah, and like the trust and it's like
it's like
it's like, oh, we're going to defeat the N.I.D., but then the N.I.D. are going to become the trust, and the trust are going to become
something
whatever,
else,
and it's just like, relax, guys.
Now, I keep getting confused with the N.I.D. Have they existed before the Stargate was around as the shady government, or they were birthed because of the Stargate?
They're the Touchstone guys.
I think the actual division existed before that, because originally, when they, because it's a made-up branch for Stargate.
Yeah.
Originally, they're going to be the N.R.D., which was actually going to stand for not a real department. And then, the higher-ups are like, no, we can't be that meta. So they changed it to N.I.D. for the National Intelligence Department or Division or something like that. So it's kind of like, it's another version of like the CIA and FBI. Yeah, so they've existed prior to the Stargate program, but they are the most sort of involved with it. And they're obviously the shadiest, because it's like the writers, being that they work with the American military, they couldn't actually make the FBI or the CIA be the shady guys.
Yeah,
so they've made up this separate, dodgy government department. But yeah, they are still just an intelligence department.
The Bourne Identity with Blackbriar and, and all that.
Right. But at least like that, for me, I understood what that was. Like it was a Black Ops division within the CIA or whatever. Whereas this, I think only in this rewatch, it's only until now with this episode that I've went, oh, the N.I.D. must have existed before the Stargate, before SGC, because up until now I've thought they're just like an offshoot, like a couple of members of the government or agencies that aren't happy with the way things are running and they've formed their own thing. But it was when Hammond actually admitted to O'Neill what the blackmail was, where he said, you can't take these people down. He goes, they're more powerful than the CIA. They're above the law. And I'm like, hang on, it's like 7 blokes that want to take over the SGC. How can you say that? But then it's like, oh, hang on, maybe they have existed for a lot longer. It's just now their main focus is the Stargate.
Government backing.
Yeah.
And having seen that, like, having seen the entire series, it's like we do know later in the series they create a new government department called Homeworld Security. So it's like, I can understand why you'd be like, oh, maybe the N.I.D. were just a new department created when the Stargate program sort of became a thing. But yeah, no, I think they have definitely lasted.
So I think the main reason I like this as an Earthbound episode is because they do the kind of Hannibal Lecter thing with Maybourne.
Yeah.
He's in the lockup, and then
and
then they go and Jack is a little bit shady with pulling his gun out onto a senator.
God,
yeah.
that was cool.
And then at the end when he's like, "You're gonna have to buy back my soul."
Yeah, and then of course the bomb. I love just crazy shit like that, like where they just
the
do
real hard science.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, well, this is the episode that I remember during my first watch. This is the episode I finally came around and loved Hammond.
Yeah.
Because like, I've spoken in the past how I was a bit iffy on Hammond for the first couple of seasons. And I think it must have been a case of, like, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. Like, when I was like, no, we can't, oh, no, we need Hammond back.
I actually
He's
wrote
a
that.
teddy bear.
Yeah, I wrote that down to ask you, because I remember you saying very early on in our podcast, maybe even episode 1, you said, I don't like Hammond yet. The first time I'm watching it, and I can't understand that. I'm like, what do you mean? But I probably started watching this show season 3, season 4 the first time around 15, 20 years ago, and then I've rewatched it since, and I've always loved Hammond because I just, like, Don S. Davis looks like your grandfather. Like, he just looks like such a lovable bloke. And then watching this last night, I'm thinking, okay, if Matty didn't like him until after this episode, I don't understand this. It has to include this. It has to have at least started here.
And especially that line where O'Neill's like,
General, I'm so sick of this bullshit. I've never seen anyone love what they do more than you, and you were so good at it. And he's like, well, no, I'm still old. And he goes, I will never believe that.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, and even
General,
at the end,
I was retired.
Yeah. And again, that opening scene, the fact that he was willing to like Walter could have taken a staff blast to the chest if he didn't put those blast doors down.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Wasn't that an epic opening?
and
I
just
think
then a
that's the
badass
first-
entrance for SG1 as well. The way they all just like rolled in through and all that sort
I
of
think
stuff.
that's the first time he's opened the Iris without an IDC as well, just radioing in from memory.
Didn't they have the IDC, but they were cut off from the gate. They couldn't.
Yeah,
they
but
were under fire.
I'm just saying that's the first time he's let the Iris open without an IDC.
No, but I'm saying, didn't they
identification.
transmit an IDC?
Yeah.
They
But-
knew it was
No.
they knew it was SG1.
They knew it was SG1.
It was over the radio. There was no IDC.
true.
They're under fire.
But it's just on their forearm. Like, surely, like Carter could just press
they,
5 buttons.
They didn't.
Yeah, but he's probably didn't put in the IDC so that the Iris wouldn't open because he knows that they're under fire. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
trying to
he just
explain
said,
this.
General, we're under fire, and he's like, all right, open the Iris.
Yeah.
He didn't.
I always just assumed that they sent the IDC, but the reason they're taking fire is because the SG1 were kind of like, taking cover behind some rocks or something near the gate.
I think it was Hammond's call.
And couldn't actually get... Yeah, well, that makes sense as
That's
well
why
as
he
to
was
why
so-
he took the blame. He used that as an excuse to take the blame to retire, quote-unquote, to hide the fact that he was being blackmailed. So, yeah,
Little thing that pissed
does
me
work.
off was when the blast kept coming through the Stargate, and then they stopped just as SG1 coming through the Stargate, and the blast didn't come through anymore. Iris closed, and then
this show has never quite got the stakes of that moment correct, where there's just blast coming through all over the place. Well, no, there is a couple.
They do
moments. I
later
think-
in the season. It's got pretty big repercussions.
Okay, right. Well, I think maybe
So
even
far.
the end of the pilot, actually, like when they dive through from True Luck, shit's going through, and there's dust and there's blast coming through. They did that, but I guess maybe they really needed to sell it in
I think
the
the
pilot.
Cassandra one too, when Jack and Tilk dive through, and you were talking about how the
That's right, the dust particles. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but with this, like, there's blast coming through. We can't get to the Stargate because there is shit. And I guess some Jafar thought, "Hang on, there's an open wormhole there. Let's fire through it because we don't know what's going on."
No, they're just terrible shots.
And then, and then our guys,
Those guys and stormtroopers.
our guys
aiming for
slowly
the
walk through.
DXD.
Now, if SG1, if no blast come through, but at least SG1 dived through the wormhole and landed on that ramp.
Yeah.
And stayed down until Walter shut it down. That's fine. But the fact they waltz through
And then they stop and they stand in front of it like you're like, you shall not pass.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they just wait. Oh, Iris is closing. Iris is
dark at least.
closing, and it's done. Thank God we were standing here and didn't get hit. I'm like,
Wouldn't
why do
you put a side ramp on the gate as well? So as soon as you get through the gate, you either go left or right, away from the event horizon.
true.
And that way you
never
stand
thought
in
of
it.
that.
You know,
That's fucking
wouldn't you
genius.
stand to the side of it? And so if someone did come through, all they're looking at is forward, and you're standing to the side, and you take them
Yeah.
out. It's like, it's
Why
just
do you
got-
need a ramp? That's what I want to know. They don't have one in Atlantis. It's just in the ground.
straight up?
They don't need one.
Oh, mate, that's how it started in Origins.
You damage the foundations.
And you can't break cannon.
Yeah, yeah. They walked up a plank. You're right.
But
You
it's
start
like,
grinding into that concrete, you could damage the foundations, and the whole complex could come down.
but yeah, it's just that thing of you're absolutely right. When they go through, why do they stand right in front of it? And yeah, all the stuff plus stop, or they do a little duck out of the way, and you're like, the ramp goes down. You can dive, and you're literally
Take cover, yeah.
you're pointing your
Oh, yeah, I
gun
guess
upwards
that's a good
toward
point.
the event horizon. If you're laying on
Yeah.
the actual ramp, or you go to the side,
You're in a dugout.
logistically.
Yeah.
What if they like?
Well, I think they
all the
do
fun
buy it
things?
back in a later season. I reckon this is a conversation that the writers and the producers might have had, because there's a very prominent episode later in the season where this very thing is addressed.
Yeah.
So maybe the fans were at this point going, "Come on, guys,
Yeah.
come on." As we're getting more comfortable with gate travel and understanding, as they're establishing the rules more and more of what can and can't be done with the Stargate. Yeah, maybe they're kind of just like, well, why hasn't anyone been like shot in the back as they're walking through the gate yet?
We've joked about in the past if the
SG-11
SGC were
probably
if they were legit, they'd be having their Christmas parties off world. Like, you just pick a paradise planet or something like that. Go to different spots. Imagine if they then use in part of their Christmas parties. They go off world, or maybe even they put this thing off world where you might put a slide. Or a jumping castle, or something like a ball pit, so you jump through the wormhole. It's like, what am I going to land in? Or what do they put on a P3X 737 or whatever? And you're like, oh no, I landed in the poop planet. Oh no, but then you jump in on the one you
Have the have the Stargate actually like hanging from a crane, so
Yeah.
you actually drop out of it.
Oh wow, wow.
yeah.
Like the opposite of First Commandment. First Commandment it's facing up.
Yeah.
Have it like hanging 30 feet from the from
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah.
dangling down
So you
into
fall.
like a ball pit.
Yeah,
or
like
a
that's
foam
partway
pit.
through. Like that's
Yeah.
it's almost
Or an
window of
orgy.
opportunity.
See, I was thinking, I want to go to that party planet where O'Neill got really old.
Oh, yeah.
That- yeah.
They were partying like mother.
Happy birthday, Link. Don't get married.
Except they're all like old and grey now.
If they offer you cake, don't take it.
Here's a condom. Use it.
Could be like
Let's tell that again.
matter of time where you've got the bungee cord, like they were hanging off it as they were, getting sucked into the black hole, but you dive through with a bungee cord, and it's like over a cliff, and you just like you go through a wormhole the other side of the galaxy and then go into a bungee jump, like there's
You
some
don't want to go
extreme
back up
sports.
into it, though.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, you're right. I didn't think about this. Okay, it's become skydiving immediately.
Yeah.
That would be sick. Actually,
Put one in like in a low orbit.
yeah.
Mad.
But that's
Jump.
Yeah, that
skydive.
Red Bull dude.
Yeah.
That's how they get rid of people they don't like Rothman or something. It's like, we're going to go bungee jumping to another planet. Sounds sick. Oh, what's going to happen? Just dive through and just get, hang on, what? Suck straight back through.
Sucker.
See ya.
But as far as Earthbound episodes were going, this was probably my favourite Earthbound episode so far.
Because it was two different stories. You had what was going on the base, and then you had the investigation into the blackmail, and both of them were. I enjoyed both of them very, very much.
It wasn't overplayed. It was dark, but it wasn't. There wasn't any cheese about it. You know what I mean? Even with the sort of, I was thinking about shooting you with O'Neill when he says it to Kinsey.
Yeah.
He did it in such a cool way. Like he actually did get a little bit dark, and that line could be. He could have, you could butcher that line, and make it really cheesy for the whole.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's another
I was
sci-fi
thinking
line.
about shooting you.
Yeah, but he just kind of
Feel lucky, punk.
And even like, he obviously, I guess, had no thought whatsoever of actually going through with pulling that trigger. No. But part of him's got to know in his head that, well, hang on, if I even put a gun on you, I could get thrown in jail for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm happy to lose my job as long as Hammond gets reinstated because he's more important to the SGC than what I am.
and that's one of the
why it
things-
makes O'Neill.
Plus, he can hang out with Harry.
Well,
How
it's,
cool.
it's one of the reasons I love Kinsey so much is because it's the only adversary O'Neill has that he can't just shoot.
Yeah.
It's like if he comes across a Jafar or a Goa'uld or anything like that, he knows he's got the authority to just like blow them away. Whereas just like Kinsey is an intellectual adversary more than a physical adversary, and
Even
that's what
if-
I love.
And
about
also,
it.
without military thing, he outranks him
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So there's no power.
That's it.
Even like, if Jack has an argument with Teal'c, he can just shoot Teal'c in the leg. He's
Oh, just
heal.
at him.
It'll
He'll
heal.
Yeah.
Just at him.
Put on that
Okay.
upgrades thing and do really awesome boxing.
And then all Teal'c has to do is go to an extremely deep state of Kelmarine.
Yeah,
And he's healed.
Immediately.
But really-
Speaking about healing, he obviously didn't go into a deep state of Kelmarine because he still had that cut on his eye from last week when he was being tortured.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, in
I didn't
the
notice that.
briefing room at the start.
And now I didn't bring this up for last week's episode, but when we're talking about Ragnar, now he's got that mad melt scar on his forehead. Don't Jafars heal?
I know, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's good for the character and it's good to say, you burn this off my forehead.
Check
But
out
you're
the vomit stain.
don't you have a symbiote?
Yeah,
Doesn't
true.
that thing heal you regardless? And people, I
And
can't
even
fair
like, obviously the Goa'uld know how to remove it because when they rebrand their Jafar when they take over.
Yeah.
enough.
So,
So it's
why
like,
I got that?
Well, basically, Ragnar's dad was like that skingy bloke who did the work on the Joker and the Batman 89 movie. He was like, you see what I have to work with? Like, that's Ragnar's dad. It's like, are there better people that can do this? There are professions of people that take these
I thought
marks
you were
off my head.
talking about the best Joker ever, Jared Leto.
I never met his
man.
doctor.
Obviously,
You know,
I'm joking.
I was thinking about that yesterday actually, and I'm like, what's the what doesn't sell it for me? His Joker is that he's too clean cut. Because the Joker's just crazy and does not give a shit, whereas he's like slick and he's smooth.
Combing
and
his hair for 20 minutes.
yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
Like, Heath
I'm like,
Ledger's
that's start off right there.
Let me
it's like
spend
nothing in his pocket but knives and lint.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
me-
it. That's
lint.
it.
Just
Let me spend
Oh my
4
God.
hours lying all these knives down in a perfect concentric pattern so I
Yeah.
can just lie in the middle of it and laugh
Yeah.
for nobody but myself.
Yeah.
Come on, mate. Go do some more crunches, you. Now, Brendan introduced to a new segment last week.
Indeed.
And look,
do you want to play it again?
I never thought I'd say this.
Sounds of Stargate.
I never thought I'd say this, but
Then don't.
I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back.
Don't, Matty.
I never thought I'd say this. No,
baby.
It's
fire it up.
It's a musical segment. Now,
It's time for the sounds.
Yeah, what was it called?
Yeah.
Now, what inspired me?
Sounds of the Gate.
What inspired
Time for the
me?
Get Into Geek. Sounds of Stargate. Nailed it.
Awesome.
Weekly-ish.
It was off the cuff, guys. Come on.
What inspired me was just a little comment Teal'c said when he was saying farewell to Hammond at the start of the episode.
On Chulak, when a great warrior retires from the field of battle, it is customary to sing a song of lament. Fortunately, we are not on Chulak.
Now,
It's a good pause.
let
there.
me
That was awesome.
let me tell you a little story here. I had a whole bit planned. I've got have a look at this. I've got like a little script set up.
Oh,
I had.
we got to spare 20 minutes, guys.
No, that's shut your what it was going to be was what would Teal'c's song of lament actually have been? Would it be a Jafar song? Would it be an Earth song? Given that he's saying farewell to Hammond.
Jafar song.
I had samples of like Whitney Houston, Bette Midler, Bonnie Tyler. I found
Thank
audio.
God.
Mate, if Bette Midler is famous in Chulak,
For her
No,
lamenting.
he was gonna sing "You Are the Wind Beneath My Wings" to Hammond. You know, he was. I had this
I was
whole
thinking
Wise
Diana Ross chain
man.
reaction. That could have been good.
Yeah. I even found audio like in some special features of Christopher Judge actually singing like "It's not unusual to be loved by anyone."
He would kill that song.
Tom Jones again.
It was actually terrible.
in the end, he chose
full
John
circle.
Farnham.
But
John Farnham
just,
comes in. Hey, Tom.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
But I just kept falling down this like I don't know if I could actually still find it again if I try. But I fell down this like Google spiral of just
A rabbit
Happens,
pouch.
mate. It happens
I went
to
to
the best
some-
of us.
I went to some dark places. In my internet
I've been
history,
there.
I went to some dark places.
And you live in the dark web.
Right now,
So for
what I
you to go
found.
Love to browse your internet history, mate.
You've gone to an extremely dark state of the web.
Yeah. Now,
The
what
web Nareem.
what I found is what made me disregard this entire bit that I spent like hours planning and
Yeah.
sampling audio and choosing songs and all that sort of stuff. I found in 2004, on the 2004 hiatus for Stargate SG-1, Chris Judge, who'd started sort of writing episodes and fancies himself a bit of a writer, fulfilled a fantasy of his to write and record and release an album.
An album.
An album.
Well,
I think you're going
What do
to
you
say a
mean?
single, but
well, I think it might have been just a single. It just what I read
A
says
singing
CD.
album.
was
Well,
the album
singing-
called Thor?
Singing, maybe a little bit of gangster rap. Who knows?
Did he call himself a German band?
And I can't believe I didn't know this, being the hardcore fan that I am. It actually went to number 1 in the charts in Asia.
All of
Oh,
Asia.
what doesn't?
They loved it.
Continent.
Now, what it actually is,
I mean,
Brett
guys,
Lee did
guys
in
are
India.
Yeah, true.
what it is a cover of the 80s classic, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off to Have a Good Time." He rewrote it to "We're Gonna Take Our Clothes Off and Have a Good Time."
Oh, genius.
Stop it. No
So
wonder.
My
here's-
kind of guy.
No wonder it went to number one.
I might play the whole thing for you at the end of the episode.
Number 1 on the charts, number 1 in your hearts.
But let me just give you a
Two
little...
strong hearts.
a little-
John Farnham.
we got two strong hearts
Reaching together like everyone went for a different part of
There's so many different versions of it, mate. I'm sorry.
Don't butcher John Farnham, you sick son of a
So let
bitch.
me
Yeah, he
just
does that himself.
give you a little sample of this. Remembering with how 80s it sounds, this was recorded and released in 2004.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Oh,
Sorry, reminds me
Crank it,
of
Mitch.
purple
Velvet
velvet.
was big in Asia. Everything's big
Paul
in Asia.
Abdul.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Opposites attract.
Yeah.
It's a bit of
Did he do this on his keyboard?
This is, I was going to say, this is Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't wait for this.
It's me, Mario. Yahoo!
Finish him.
Oh,
Oh, Barry
very
White.
right at your heart out. Oh, baby.
Oh.
Kratos, God of War.
It's Magneto from X-Men Evolution.
Came from the chorus.
Comes. This is the other guy that did it with him, who does a rap break later on.
Oh, perfect.
There's no need for games, you see, 'cause mutual satisfaction's where we wanna be.
Mutual satisfaction's where we want to be. I mean, that's one of the greatest lyrics of all time, isn't it?
That was good.
Yeah.
What was the episode where Tilk's ex-missus came back?
Which one?
Oh, the priestess.
Sean
Right?
Ock
The priestess.
The hot one or the
hot one?
The hot one
priestess.
was
They got a
Priestess.
symbiote squished.
family or bloodlines.
No,
this
no.
season.
No, the latest one.
The priestess.
Oh, that's not his missus. That was Shonnock. that was
he
in
said his
Crossroads.
ex-missus, mate. What was it? Crossroads.
Shonnock in Crossroads.
All right, so cut all that out. Hey, in Crossroads, when Tilk's ex-missus...
The zinger.
In
Not cutting
Crossroads...
that out.
In Crossroads, when Tilk's missus came back, do you reckon
What show?
when
What
they
episode?
when he locked himself in a room with her, he
What
just
episode
sang
was it?
that to her? He sang that to her, and that's why they rooted.
Just lit a few candles and we're
Yeah.
going
That's
to
why he
get
walked
nuts
out with that
and have a good
satisfied
time.
look. He's like, she liked the song,
Yeah.
got me
Mate,
laid.
with what Shonnock was wearing, he didn't even have to take her clothes off to have a good time.
Just
He like-
dancing.
First of all,
The candles on.
he said,
He's got his fluoro pants on.
That's that 80s like step click dance move.
Yeah.
All the mums are doing.
the Carlton.
That's it.
Carlton.
First of all, he explained to her what Asia is, and then he said, "I'm number one there."
I'm big in Asia.
I've obviously never been there because not allowed off base, but
Yeah.
massive in Asia.
I've seen it on TV.
It's like David Hasselhoff, huge in Germany.
Absolutely.
Much like Wizard
Yeah.
from last week.
If we find a song Wizard featuring David Hasselhoff.
Oh, my God.
Oh, far
Stop
out.
it.
Say no more.
So what you're saying is with this podcast is we need to crack the Asian market, like get take the Stargate,
Yeah.
sort of fame. What
Take
what
it to
Chris-
China.
China.
Take it to China, the Chinese.
Stop.
Combination.
Anyway, there's a massive wrench in this episode.
I
There
was
was.
looking for it.
I grabbed a
couldn't find
picture of it. It should be there on the email, Mitch.
Wouldn't be the first picture of a massive wrench you've got.
Hey.
That is
We'll pop that up
massive
on the
wrench.
socials.
Oh.
but-
Look where he's holding it.
You want to hold my wrench?
Yeah. Just grab it by
I
the
think
shaft.
I do. think I do there.
That's got a big
Maybe
head.
wood.
Is that the biggest wrench we've seen so far on the show?
I think
believe
so.
so.
Is
yeah.
it an increase in the last big wrench that we saw?
I think it's about the same. I
it's the
think
same
the
prop.
other.
But it features more prominently in this particular
Oh,
scene
absolutely.
and shot.
I mean,
Yes.
and there's-
Center screen.
at least the last
Oh.
time they used it, they were like they were using it on
Using
like
it on
the
the
gate
gate.
clamps and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
No.
Just,
It was down the bottom of the stairs, just looking at it like.
Yeah, they're just
like
handing
that
it to
one.
each
Yeah, but
other
the
at that
first time I
point.
think Styler had it, and he
was actually
and he had a
using-
line
Yeah.
when he was holding it.
Apparently, at one point, Siler is in the infirmary in a bed, like with a broken arm or whatever, and the wrench is actually just like next to him on the bed,
No way.
under the covers with just the head popping out. So
Yeah, I think Scorched Earth was the last time we saw it.
I wanted to go back to the General Hammond and Jack scene at Hammond's house.
which, believe it or not, that set of Hammond's kitchen is actually Kinsey's house. It's just the back of it. So they used the front half for Kinsey, but that same house at the
right.
back is
Wow.
where they did Hammond
Yeah, cool.
and his granddaughters playing and
I
stuff.
just love it. The grandchildren are there. They're
freaky.
talking about them. But I just found it funny how when Jack goes, "Hey, bambino, esmenano," whatever he did that in Learning Curve.
Yeah, every time there's kids around, he's like, I'm going to be Italian, and then he full score your mother.
Who was it a pizza? But then
Hey,
they
for
had
me,
the same bad sound effect that you were complaining about in Learning Curve, the kids playing.
Yeah, and laughing.
laughing
And
sounds.
you're watching the kids in a close up. One of them was just blank stare, not talking, not laughing, and there's distinct two girls laughing.
It's the stereo. Yeah, it's that. It's they
I didn't
use that a
notice
lot.
that.
It's just like the truck sound.
Yeah.
Every truck will make that
Exactly
same
right.
bloody sound.
That's 101 truckers.
yeah, yeah.
That sound effect was even Star Wars, right? I think when little Annie was, preparing
yeah.
for the pod race, and all his friends are running around.
Mack truck comes through.
Just one of the pod racers did do that. That'd be excellent.
Zuzu.
Oh god.
But yeah, I do. I think that scene was like, oh, Hammond, you're a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
Just the depth of his voice as well, I think.
I got very protective over Hammond and his family when he said, "Oh, they picked up my granddaughters from school." I'm like, I want to kill someone.
And he's like, the girls were fine. I got the message. And you're like, oh my god,
Jesus,
wow.
It was just
I
very
don't like to see
convenient.
him vulnerable like this. He knows all the answers.
It's like,
General.
it was just very convenient, Jack, that you nearly died 2 weeks after I got those threats, because otherwise I was going to have to come up with some bullshit that I was just bored of my job.
Yeah.
I mean, all he had to do was just send an SG-11 out on a mission. And then lose them and be like, all right, I'm sick of losing the SG-11 team.
no.
I always said to myself, as soon as SG-11 dies 6 times, I'm gone.
That wouldn't have worked because SG-11 never would have made it back to the gate in the first place.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
He would have had to have sent SG-1 to go and rescue SG-11.
There we go.
I'm
And
sick
they
of
would have
sending
got
shit
captured.
people into their death.
As soon as he sends SG-11 through the gate, he's like, "Oh, God, I can't believe I've lost another crew. Like, they're not dead yet. Nah, they're SG-11. They're probably dead."
Shut the gate.
Actually, what happened, like when the episode started, is that's SG-1 coming back from a failed mission to save SG-11 again, and their corpses are just left being burnt.
Well, it's kind of like you'd make a deal with yourself. Either SG-11 dies, SG-1 gets captured. One of the two, take your pick, because it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's just do it. And then all of a sudden, he's like, close enough.
Yep.
So at the end, I think we touched on it before, but Kinsey just off the cuff runs for president, or because Jack called the media and goes, "Oh, he's going to run for president." Oh, you going to run for president? Oh, hell, why not? Let's do it.
And that kind of leads up to next week's episode as well.
It does.
Maybourne pulled out a floppy disk out of the freezer.
That was pretty brilliant.
Now I'm just going, I'm pretty sure, like they're made of plastic, the floppy
Here we
disk.
go, yeah.
Well, if you touch that inner mylar disk, it ruins it, right? So if you have condensation on a disk, it ruins the data. So you wouldn't,
Well, you don't get condensation in a freezer, do you?
when you pull it out, you would.
It
When
was
you-
it was in a
you know what
Ziploc
I mean?
bag.
It's always where we can pull it out.
I was waiting.
It was in a Ziploc bag, wasn't it? So it wouldn't have any ice particles on it.
Oh, I didn't see the Ziploc bag.
Yeah,
Ah,
Took it
fair
out
cool.
of a Ziploc bag.
Full Ziploc.
Oh, all right. Forget what I was going to say then.
And it was also military grade floppy
he
disk.
had a spreadsheet ready to go too.
I had my spreadsheet here.
Speech.
Damn it.
Hey, I do have
Anyway,
a
it
bit of-
shouldn't be exposed to freezing temperatures. That's all I'm saying.
Well, our intelligence suggests that it can.
There's a point. There's a point I want to get across.
yeah.
In case someone out there saying, "Oh, yeah, lock bag wouldn't matter."
I do have
loved the trap door he had out to his balcony.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. I want one.
What does that look like on the other side? Like,
Yeah.
the balcony, it's like, that brick wall looks pretty fake.
It was
Yeah.
just a door, and they just put a cabinet
There'd have to be
there.
a lot of road noise there too, because it's like obviously there's no insulation, there's no double
Yeah.
walls. It's just like where you're putting a book is the wall touching the outside.
Every 2 seconds.
Why is Great Expectations making a trucking noise?
Why is it vibrating?
I just loved a pre-Google world where it's on the internet. The internet, findorama.net.
Yeah.
I know, that's the secret government file.
I kind of like that we could probably use that still in 2018, that these secret shady people are speaking on public forums. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they're just on the comments of a YouTube
Just
page.
troll-
like,
they're
trolls,
They
yeah.
invented trolling.
yeah.
And it's like, and
Oh no, we're onto something.
the password.
What about men? That's a code word for so many different things.
And the password that's protecting Kinsey from like being taken down completely isn't even like, you know, doesn't have capital letters and numbers or some kind of, you know, it's just Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar.
I know, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, not Oscar 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, not
Just
you know,
Need a
anything
capital
like that.
and a punctuation in there.
Yeah.
That's why
It's like
they
you try to do
added
that these days and be like, we're sorry, your password needs at least one letter and
Yeah.
one number.
Yeah.
I think it was after that episode that everyone, like Hotmail, everyone was like, shit.
My
We guys-
password's Oscar.
We need to
too.
upgrade.
Yeah, we really need to upgrade. Okay. Capitals, we need more.
I
We need more.
felt sorry for the actress playing Kinsey's wife.
Oh,
in that,
didn't
'cause
she
they,
just seem like an idiot?
they made her the biggest
Yeah.
idiot. Like,
Yeah.
like she's, you know, how old would Kinsey as a character be? Do you think? Like, he's
Just
at
an
least
attack
late
on women
50s,
these
he's
days.
early 60s. an attack on the writing of that particular female character.
I
Absolutely.
saw a lot of that as an act because isn't she the one that called the N.I.D?
She did have that shady look, but it was just, I think immediately it was like, oh, who are these people? These are friends. He's like, I'm Starsky and Hutch. I'm like, you would have watched that show. It was on 15 years ago. Yeah. And then
you look at least 70.
Yeah. She's like, oh, Mr. Starsky. He's like, oh, honey, it's a bloody TV show. You guys are actors? He's like, oh, let's go into my office.
Yes. We need to just get out of here.
Yeah. And then she gave that look, and I'm like, oh, hang on. Like, that look, because I was a big fan of 24 when it was on. I'm like, that look suggests, if it was in 24, was that she is actually a mole that has always been evil. Yeah. Yeah, and she's going to now rat at her husband, who was already the bad guy.
She's actually an assassin. Like, you know how like Lex Luthor has that assassin secretary Mercy, where she's got like bionic arms and stuff like that. Yeah. That's Kinsey's wife.
You needed to do a snap zoom. Yeah. And then that.
Yeah.
That's, oh, wow, she's a mole. Yeah. The 24 snap zoom.
And then bring in the countdown. Bing.
Yeah. Birds of a feather, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good
I love that.
reference
now,
for a future episode.
Great party, Mrs. K.
Yeah.
I do have a bit of fun trivia that won't interest any of you guys in the room, but might interest some people.
So anyway, guys,
Gilmore Girls premiered in between this episode and the last episode, the very first episode.
Oh, sensational.
And actually wrapped
What's
up.
this got to do with Stargate?
Because it also...
They had a dog in their episode.
Don't interrupt him, mate.
And it wrapped up 2 months after Stargate finished.
So they
Good story.
They couldn't ride on the coattails of SG-1 anymore. They're like, all right, cancel it, baby.
There wasn't enough in the Venn diagram of Gilmore Girls watchers and Stargate watchers to just like ride on the coattails enough. It was just like that where it crosses, there's just like me, and that's it.
No, I think you found a few friends through this podcast.
Yeah,
you fit in that group.
Yeah, I think
The Get Some Culture Up Here group of...
Yeah. I think Holly said she likes Gilmore Girls.
No, she said Madam Secretary.
Yeah.
I mean, she might like Gilmore Girls. I'm just saying. Look, I remember.
This is more than I was prepared to talk about Gilmore Girls. So I haven't done my research.
Likewise. So you were saying off air, Matty, that's O'Neill's or RDA's dog?
Yeah. So Kinsey's dog Oscar he's an Australian Shepherd. Well, I should say she's an Australian Shepherd that is actually Richard Anderson's dog in real life.
Is that Oscar? Cool. What's its name?
I don't know.
They're not called Australian Shepherds over here.
No, they're not.
Aussie Shepherds.
They're called dogs.
They're called dogs. Canines, we call them.
Yeah.
Mutts.
So,
just a mutt.
I'm not an expert on radiation, but if there's that much gamma radiation pouring into the gate... No, I'm not. Surprisingly not. Big fan of floppy disks, but not radiation.
But you wear glasses.
Is it still a floppy disk if it's frozen? Is it?
No.
No,
that's you got to be
it's a hard drive.
It's a hard drive.
Condensation, then.
It was a play on floppy. It was a penis metaphor, Brendan. It was a play on if you put something floppy in the freezer, it's going to go hard. That was the joke, but...
No, we got it.
Yeah.
Well... It just wasn't funny.
Did you?
I think someone said that to me once.
Yeah. It's all coming back.
Really hurt. Actually, I think it was you, Matty.
Oh, my God.
Really hurt.
Yeah, what were you saying?
But if there's that much radiation, wouldn't there be like some residual radiation? Like,
yeah. And
You can't just hose down the gate route. Get a garden hose.
if you watch really closely, the really nice touch that the prop master did at the end of the episode is you'll see when O'Neill walks into Hammond's office, they have like they look like black pens hanging from their things. They're radiation detectors.
Yeah, but I noticed that too. But like talking about, you couldn't go to Hiroshima or. You know, what's that place in Russia that had the nuclear... Chernobyl.
Yeah.
You can't go to Chernobyl.
Yeah, but you're assuming that the radiation levels were that high.
Yeah, I am assuming that.
Well,
didn't you know what they say? The radiation meter?
It blew up like a planet.
You know what they say when you assume... Yeah, but it blew up a planet and came through an outgoing wormhole. So it's like, you know...
Didn't you see the radiation meter behind Walter? Like, that was high. That was in the red.
I didn't write the episode. I'm just telling you what was in it.
They should have been dead.
Stop defending bad writing, Matty.
Well, you go and tweet Joe and Paul.
No, they had radiation pens. It was fine.
Actually, sorry, can we just plan if you actually did go and tweet Joe and Paul now? Go, oh, yeah, the episode you wrote 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I got some fucking questions.
Yeah.
So, gamma radiation.
That radiation that came from a made-up substance that came through a made-up wormhole in a made-up world, they would have been dead, you idiots.
And then another thing.
Kill yourselves.
And then another thing.
Yeah.
Floppy disk in the freezer. off.
You know what? You're worse than the Origins writers.
Also, you would have heard traffic behind that bookcase.
I've put a sound clip here.
See attachment.
Go.
I might do that now. At Baron Destructo. In the episode Chain Reaction, you had a floppy disk and a freezer. I just want to touch on that.
Just wondering if that's scientifically viable.
Yeah.
Joe will be like, nah, Paul wrote that part.
He'd be like, oh, another Stargate guy.
You'd be like, actually, that was the only thing we let Cooper put in the episode.
Just,
The only thing.
Shit.
Put it in the freezer.
It was in the floor. Nah, put it in the freezer.
just make sure when you tweet him, just include a picture of comic book guy from The Simpsons, and then you'll...
Actually, the nitpick I had mainly with the fridge is that he pulls 2 beers out, offers Jack one, Jack says no, and he puts his back.
I didn't want to be rude.
Maybourne, you've been in
host,
jail for 12 months. Have a schooner. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, how long have those beers been sitting there?
Yeah,
So you're on that famous beer
doesn't
and
matter.
mustard diet.
beer and mustard diet.
We're not all
12
alcoholics,
beers
you
and
know.
a little small mustard.
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, he just smashed like 4 hot dogs in the park, so, you know, maybe...
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He's sitting there going, man, I wish
Beer
I
and
brought my
hot dogs.
mustard.
If I get back to the apartment quick enough, and it'll be like I've eaten it at the same time, it'll be
Pour
fine.
it in my mouth.
Jack, you do it. Jack, pour it in my mouth.
Oh,
team.
in and around my mouth. I love it how Jackson was so like you've been talking, Mitch, about how snappy Daniel is. I forgot the word you used.
I've always rested on condescending more than anything. I
Yeah.
think, in this rewatch.
And this time it worked when he's like, "Guess your risk assessment didn't cover this."
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
And
good.
so
I was like, "Oh, zing!"
It's in this
And
situation.
then he got out of there so quick.
Yeah, and then it cuts to like Teal'c standing behind him, and I could just picture Teal'c going, girlfriend," and following it. He followed Daniel. Why is he following Daniel?
Well,
That just
it'd
came
be
to me.
awkward if he stayed there with old mate and just like looked around.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
He's already been put in SG3. He's like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to make this any worse. Let
Yeah.
Daniel
it
say
is
it.
time
and
for
we'll-
my kill Nareem. On the last scene with Hammond and Jack, I don't know what that was, but it's like they had a pen on their collar. Did anyone pick that up?
Are you joking?
Are you actually
What was it?
joking?
You are kidding.
That was the radiation pen.
That was the
Oh,
fucking thing
so
that
that Matty was-
mentioned 4 minutes ago.
I wasn't listening.
You
actually- you
had
actually-
a go at me about it.
Matty
I
said
thought
you
weren't
about the one-
listening.
Matty said they've got these pens, and you actually said, "Yeah, I noticed that."
I thought you meant the one in the gate room where the guys.
No, I said when O'Neill walked into Hammond's office and they had their final scene, they're both wearing little black pens
you,
in their shirts.
you interrupted me, so I wasn't
we
listening.
we all understood what Matty said, except you.
Wrap it up.
So what were those things? I just was reading my notes.
A radiation
What-
detector.
I just highlighted
the
had to
hell?
highlight the reports.
He's on Jack and Hammond's collar.
Yeah, they detect if the radiation levels are too high and if they would die, so they weren't. That's why they
On
were
the
there.
plus side, O'Neill doesn't have to write bullet points in his notes anymore.
Yes.
So-
Good point.
I wonder what happened to that guy.
I actually find it
The
hard
general.
to believe too.
The old
General
Fallout boy.
Mustache.
General Fallout boy.
Colonel Mustard.
That's the one I
General
come up with.
Mustard.
General Bow Out.
Oh,
That's
bow
not
wow.
Oh,
I like that.
That's not bad.
Bow wow.
I like
Little
that.
bow wow.
You guys are generous.
Well, yeah.
Was a better response.
Yeah,
It was a better response than I was
What do you
expecting,
reckon
so-
actually
Yeah, we didn't have to
happened to him?
explain that
Because he got like a mad dose of humble pie.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
You know,
He knew it too.
he knew it, but then he got it like
I'm sorry,
rubbed in by
Carter. I'm sorry.
everyone. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you reckon would have happened to him?
He got,
So
a,
what-
he got a
and-
mad dose of "you're fired," and the NID's probably locked him up somewhere.
And
Oh,
he-
he's
he
just
was-
a patsy anyway.
He was
wasn't
just a
Like,
patsy then,
yeah.
really, wasn't he? He wasn't NID sort of fed. He was just a patsy.
Well,
So they'll
was
just
he?
be like, all right, just go back to your
He's
other
like,
job.
but McKay said it would work.
I mean, Kinsey was the one that put him in that position.
Yeah.
So he's obviously Kinsey's little bitch boy.
Yeah.
So he could entirely be.
He's
in bed with
supposed
the
to be a
NID as
waiter
well.
at that party, but
If-
he's
If Maybourne, who was in the military, can be part of the NID and be doing all that shady shit, and General Bauer could totally be part of the NID.
Yeah.
But he's of no
Those-
use to them anymore.
Those intelligence reports he was getting were probably straight from
yeah, he
Kinsey.
didn't seem to be the smartest bloke either. So you're
No.
right. He's like just a full patsy. So now that he's not useful to
Just
them
a-
anymore, do you reckon he's either
just
you know,
just an old white male in power. Fuck that.
yeah. They'd say, look,
Just failing upwards.
you can retire, or we'll sack you.
will retire?
Or we can put a,
All right, I'll
we can put a
retire.
bullet between your ears.
Yeah. It's time to find out if Rhys has been paying attention.
All right, let's do it. 5 questions for
Yeah.
Rhys this week. They're all gimmies. I'm actually not even joking.
Again.
You will get 5.
Oh, Jesus.
They're easy.
Pressure's on.
They're all easy. 30 seconds on the clock. The time starts at the end of this question. In the episode Chain Reaction,
Yeah.
This episode.
they're all about chain reaction,
Right.
by the way.
So in
Number
this-
1. What agency threatened General Hammond?
N.I.D.
Correct. What type of radiation spilled through the gate?
What type? Gamma.
Correct. Why did the Stargate disengage?
38-minute window.
Correct. Where did Maybourne get his floppy disk from?
The freezer.
What was the name of the senator's dog?
Senator's dog.
Is the password.
I got plenty of time.
Oscar!
Oh, you got me.
I knew it straight away, and I
actually
stopped and thought, and I'm like, I'm just going to have a look around the room at everyone.
It would have been so funny if it went off.
I'm happy for Rhys, but I'm a little bit unhappy.
Yeah.
I really wanted.
Well,
Have you heard the
Didn't you say
celebratory
there's a
grab
new-
though?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so we've got different audio for when he does actually.
Rhys, I don't want you to go. I want to be your friend.
See?
And again, he goes, I want to be your friend. You stupid son of a bitch.
yeah.
When you're successful, everyone just wants to be your friend.
And it's not as exciting.
No. Especially when they call you a stupid son of a bitch every week of your life until now.
Feels good.
Oh, 5 out of 5, guys.
Boom, well done.
They were all
I'm
gimmies.
going to have to give him Get Harder now
That's what she said. I mean, he said.
in the freezer.
So, guys,
But seriously, what were those pens for on their shirt?
no idea. I
I
think
think
they were.
Matty's seething right now.
No, you know,
They were
it's-
Nicorette.
I'm totally okay with it because what I'm really actually pleased with is when I brought up the whole Kinsey thing earlier, I fully expected to have to do a box of shame, and I just got away with it. That's one. So that's why I'm just like, you know what? I'm fine.
We knew you wouldn't have gone for it.
Mate, it's here ready to go, and I had the box of shame audio attached to this.
All right, well, let's
episode.
go.
Nah, it's too late now,
Box of shame.
guys. Too late now, guys.
It's not.
We knew you'd
Do
say
it.
that.
Nah.
That's
Do
why
it.
we didn't do it.
Well, I reckon to wrap us up, it was a bit of a shame that we are talking about this episode this week and not, a fortnight ago, because it wasn't just us. A lot of the Stargate fandom out there were talking about it was the 10th anniversary of Don S. Davis and his death back in
passing.
2008. Yeah, so a lot of people talking about that and how much they love the bloke, and then you get to watch this, and he's just this lovable bloody general, and you're like, I do love this guy. I love this man so much. Like I mean, you don't ever think that that's his exit from the show watching this episode, but just for a second thinking about, what if, you're like, I don't know, I don't want to watch this show and see this team do their missions without knowing that he's back there giving the orders out, and giving them the leeway and the patience that he says that he will to O'Neill.
And a few people have contacted us and written on the socials that they've actually met him in real life and said he's very much the same as his character, very fun-loving and warm. So
Loves the self-destruct.
And then,
absolutely.
and then the irony that in next week's episode, which is set in the future, they mentioned that General Hammond passed away in 2004 from a heart attack, and then in real life in 2008 he passed away from a heart attack.
Oh, I didn't know how. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit, he was in Con Air.
Who?
He had.
Don S. Davis.
He was the bunny.
I've been watching.
Where was he?
He was
Who
the
was he in
son.
Con Air?
I don't know. I'm just reading an article
He
here
was
in
Nicolas
Variety.
Cage's son.
And it's just listing off some of his stuff. He was in A League of Their Own. He was in Look Who's Talking, and he was in Con Air.
Yeah, look who's talking. I remember him. Was he a doctor? Was he a doctor in
I
that?
haven't seen
I
that
remember
so
when I
long.
started watching the X-Files, far after I started watching SG-1, he was Scully's dad. And he pops up in the first season. I'm like, General Hammond. Oh, shit. He knows about aliens.
Yep.
Don't believe this bullshit.
You ever watched the movie Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr.? Christopher Judge is the dentist at the start who is Christopher who is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s father.
What?
At the start of Snow Dogs.
Oh,
well,
right,
it's his adopted father.
But he's when he was younger or something.
Yeah, when he was a real young kid.
Chris
Christopher Judge
Judge
got
is
a
a
big
dentist.
afro and shit.
Can you imagine walking
Still
in?
not enough to make me watch Snow Dogs.
I've watched it a couple of times. Only because Christopher Judge.
But General Hammond had a little farewell in this episode before he retired.
Yeah, it was
I
kind
thought-
of weird watching that scene at the 10-year mark of his passing. Actually, I was like, oh, that's quite touching.
Quite emotional.
Brought a tear to the eye.
Shit, for someone dead inside, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Stargate, but
I poked myself in the eye.
While you were cutting onions, watching Stargate. Did all you could.
It's just dusty.
Let me just say it's been a pleasure serving with all of you.
Yeah, to think like, I mean, I know our rewatches, you know, it's just at random dates and stuff, but to think, yeah, like, really, we're doing this days after, you know, a week after it'll happen. Yeah, it was weird to watch it. It seems sort of really fitting in a way for us to be going through it anyway, and anyone watching it along with us. And it reminded me of the way they did it for Desmond Llewellyn, the guy who played Q in the James Bond franchise for like the first, what was the 19th film. I think he had 17 appearances in the first 19 James Bond movies. The World Is Not Enough, 1999 was the last film that he was in. And that was when they introduced his little offsider, R, played by John Cleese. And it was like, oh, are they going to have him with a little sidekick ongoing now? But at the end of the scene, he says to Bond, he goes, what are the two things I've always tried to teach you? He says, one, never let them see you bleed. And Bond's like, and the second? And he goes, always have an escape plan. And he clicks a button, and he's on some kind of like little hole in the floor or something, and he just disappears out of shot. This old bloke who, like, Desmond Llewellyn by the end of it was like at least late 70s, maybe early 80s, and he just disappears out of shot. And it was a really sad moment in the film. Like, you don't know why, because it's not like the character died.
He just looked up at him the whole time.
Yeah, just looked up at him, and they had, like, you know, as much as they annoy each other, those characters, they did have a great love for each other. And then a couple of months after, I don't even know if it was before the release of the movie, but definitely after filming had finished, Desmond Llewellyn was out at like an autograph signing, like a big, you know, convention or something, and he died in a car accident on his drive home. Yeah, but he was still out signing autographs, getting photos with fans. But then that scene in the film became his last moments in that franchise because of his real life death. And you go back and watch that, and you're like, man, that just seems so like, it's like they knew. And then you listen to that while we're rewatching. Yeah, like you said, even for someone dead inside, gives you a tear to your eye. So.
Well, yeah, especially because Carter goes, we're going to miss you, sir. And Daniel's like, won't be the same without you, sir. And you're like, oh. And then the Tilk lamenting.
the comedic relief.
Yeah.
God, need a bit of that right now.
Should we play a song again then? Get us pepping.
Oh, please.
All right. Well, that's episode 81 of Get Into Gate. Chat and Reaction. We'll be back next week to talk about 2010, as Matty was just teasing, episode 16 of Season 4. That's the next Stargate SG-1.
On the next Stargate SG-1.
10 years ago, this very day, I was able to forge the greatest alliance this world.
Without our even knowing it, they have managed to sterilize over 90% of the world's population.
What do you want me to do about it?
Now, unless SG-1 can turn back the clock.
I will not let you risk Sam's life. We need her to pull this off.
With split-second timing, Richard Dean Anderson stars on the next Stargate SG-1.
I mean, Richard Dean Anderson kind of stars in the next Stargate SG-1. Well, Rhys has still got his headphones off. But anyway, we'll find out. I have great memories about this episode. I actually can't wait to re-watch this. I think this will be the first time I've re-watched the episode 2010 after the year 2010. Yeah. I think the last time I watched this was like 2010 was years away. Like it was early 2000s the last time I would have watched this episode. So I always like watching those future set. Well, when they're made, set in the future, and then looking back on them now as something in the past, going, technology. We're nowhere near that Blade Runner.
Where's
Thanks so much.
Flying skateboards?
Episode 81 of Get Into Gate this time next week. In the meantime, you can check out all of our old podcasts. Get Into Gate, a Stargate podcast on your favourite podcasting channel. Like, subscribe, share away on our socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Drop us a line, getintogate@gmail.com. Or be part of the team, contribute to the show, exclusive extras, all on patreon.com/getintogate.
Do you want to be a link in our chain reaction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump on Patreon.
I was just going to say, chain yourself up to us.
Early access to the podcast and a whole heap of behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah. Some Lincoln nudes we're going to chuck on there.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, some more.
Obviously not. Like,
he has a mankini on.
No false advertising there. Because there would be a whole bunch of people jumping on, especially me.
Yeah. Oh no, the website's crashing. Brendan's not logged on again. Oh shit.
It'll just be for 2 minutes.
Yeah, don't worry. Give me 30 seconds, guys. I'll be done.
Otherwise, you can get me, Mitch_Lewis, on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to talk to Matty about some Gate, you can find him on...
At High Pitch Matty.
Yep. And Brendan.
At the Brendan Gibson.
Rhys.
I'm at the Flying Gibson.
And Lincoln's Nudes are really located at...
At Mitch_Lewis.
Oh, yeah. Nudes of when you were like 2.
Yeah.
I can chuck those ones up.
Sick son of a bitch.
It's okay. I was 3, so it's normal.
Plenty's changed, all right?
There we go. Yeah. No, I haven't gotten any bigger. At the link... no, at the... No.
Oh,
you want to be one of the boys.
Yeah.
I'm the...
Don't worry about it.
I'm the Lincoln Lewis. I'm the Lincoln Lewis.
I'm the Link Lewis.
Doors that way. Just look up the boys. I'm just the ring in. I'm like the mud tooth.
Don't join us in paying you out. You gotta hit back, man.
I'm pretty sure Sam's still not keen with Lincoln being here.
So what do we know about this new guy?
Is that it?
I don't think he heard the setup, so that's fine.
What else is funny?
What else is...
How good's improv?
I don't think I did either.
Improv.
GetIntoGeek.com.